Welcome, Divine Hearts, and thank you so much for being here and joining us. And my name is Lois, and I'm an Ascension guide. And over a year ago, I was guided to start to record conversations with light keepers around the planet to inspire and to uplift and to support all of us on this journey that we are all making, this Ascension journey, this huge transformational journey that's taking place in many of us at this time. And so one of these amazing light keepers here on the planet at this time is my guest this week, and she's called ZsaZsa. And ZsaZsa is a beautiful light keeper. She is a New Earth guardian and a Wayshower, and she has many gifts and beautiful abilities that she shares with her community and with her world. And so we're going to be diving into ZsaZsa and all her beautiful gifts today to hear more about her and her wonderful abilities. So let's welcome ZsaZsa here to this platform and say thank you. Thank you, ZsaZsa, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lois. It's such a pleasure and a joy to be here and to communicate and share light in this way. It's all about sharing, isn't it? It's all about sharing. And yes, thank you very much for having me.
Well, it is our pleasure, and I'm just very, very excited to explore more and discover more about what you do today.
Yes.
So let's start. Let's take you back to how you wish to share, really, your journey up until this point and your process of awakening, or things that are highlighted in your journey so far, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. So when I was a child, I was very sensitive, and I was just very, very open as a child. I think to some of the adults in my life back then, I might have been a little bit unusual, or maybe I wasn't. I don't know. All I know is I was very sensitive, and I had imaginary friends when I was little, imaginary friends. And I suppose that was probably my first remembrance that there was something that was easy for me, or easier for me. But I suppressed a lot of it. I even remember when I was a child speaking light language, but I just thought it was play. I thought it was playing, but of course that really is what it is. It's all about, it's about play and joy and what brings you, uplifts you and lights you up. So there was a lot of times when my light got squashed when I was younger. I suppose because I was different, and the things that interest me weren't the same things that interested some of my friends. And so I pushed a lot of it aside, and then I sort of went offline for a long time, sort of dipping in and out here and there. And, I did do quite a bit of dowsing when I was at school, and I enjoyed that sort of thing. But it's, I think everybody has little bits and pieces that they play with. But then I had this huge, massive wake-up call. I had quite a bumpy ride up until 2012 with lots of intense situations happening. And I think for a lot of us, we have experienced a lot of intensity in order to wake us up. It's like, come on. And even when something intense would happen, I would still numb it with maybe drinking or smoking, all of those sort of vices that push the light down. But in 2012, and the big clarion call that called so many, hey, now is the time. And I walked into my restaurant. I was pretty successful. I've been in hospitality for over 20 years, worked multiple sites, I was good at it and I loved it. It wasn't that I didn't love it. And I particularly loved my last restaurant because it was just so beautiful. It was just the people, everything was just beautiful about it. It wasn't that I loved everyone there. I loved everyone there. And I just walked in and I was like, it's time. It is time. And I thought, why? What am I? It was like something possessed me. It was, it's time. What are you talking about? It's time. It sounds really quite dramatic. And I left and I moved to Spain and tried to do writing, and that didn't quite come about. And I moved back to England with this enormous dog, Boo Boo, that I met whilst I was in Spain. And obviously I couldn't go back to London, couldn't go back to working in restaurants and stuff with this big dog. You know, I couldn't, just what was I going to do? And when I was little, I always wanted to work with animals. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I should be working with animals. So I started doing courses and doing training with him and all of this sort of stuff. And then my mum got very sick. And so I ended up nursing her while she was in her final time with cancer. And just after she died, I delved deep into lots and lots and lots of studies, but it was just after that I got cancer myself. So my new business, which I had formed, which was in coaching, because I'd done coaching years before in London, that was sort of like suddenly put aside. Everything was suddenly put aside. And then it was during that time that so many strange things happened. And one of them was I went into the bathroom one night, and I can't remember if this was just before the diagnosis. I think this must be just after the diagnosis, but I'm not sure if it was just before the operation or after. So I had breast cancer. And I went to the bathroom and I looked at myself, and looking back at me, I was a cat. And I was like, whoa. Because I was awake and I wasn't even drinking then. I'd quit drinking at the beginning of that year. So I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking. I don't take drugs or anything, not now. But, you know, I was like, what is going on? And it did sort of like alarm me a bit, because I didn't really know, you know. But I managed to sort of like calm myself and just look back. And there was no mistaking. I was looking at myself, not just through my third eye, but through my actual physical sight. And I could see that I was clear, this cat being. And then I went to bed because I was tired. And I got into bed, and it went into a light. So it was like as if I was looking at myself in the mirror, and then something sort of, it looked as almost like it separated, but it didn't. But then it was this light came to me and went under the covers, and it felt like there was almost a cat sleeping inside the bed with me. And then it came out, and there was this tiny little light again, and it expanded to the size of like a tennis ball, and then shot right through the window and disappeared. And so after that, I started investigating. I started to find out what was going on with me, like what was all this about. And I found a friend who said to me, oh, this is the Lyrans, and this is your Lyran heritage. Back then, I just assumed that if you were a starseed, you were either one or the other. I didn't realize that you were actually all of this, you're everything, that there is no separation. You are Lyran, you are Arcturian, you are, Syrian, you're all of it. But back then, we still were very much in separation. When we're learning and we're growing and we're expanding, we're still seeing things as like that you are this or you're that or you're, the other. So this friend of mine told me about the Lyrans, and then I started to get into a few groups, some starseed groups. There was a very good one online on Meet Earth's Cosmic Neighbors. I think it's been taken off the Facebook now, but when it first opened or formed, it was a really good, safe place and really great content, really light content, really helpful for starseeds that were sort of like finding out what was going on. And then around this time, I had a lot of very intense dreams. And one of the dreams, I was in a chamber underwater, And this same friend of mine said to me, well, maybe this is an Atlantean thing. I'm still like, this could be an Atlantean thing, but I've seen similar chambers like that in Sirius. And then there was another dream where I went into these crystal chambers, and there was these rooms that were crystal, different, like pale pink, pale blue, and pale yellow crystals. And they were shaped like a jigsaw puzzle, so that when you went in, the sounds that you felt coming from the crystals, so the sounds and the feeling and the texture and the width of the crystals, it was all part of the chamber's healing abilities. And you walked in and you felt really clean. There was nothing else in there. It was literally just these very interesting shapes, one after the other. So you went through one, you just stood there in the center, and then you went to the next one, you stood in the center, and then you went to the next one, you stood in the center, and you just breathed, and you heard these lovely sounds. But then crystal speaks. It's like they're like, they're alive. They speak to us when we can listen, and we hear it all through our hearts. So there was that dream that was very, very vivid, very important to my journey at that time. And another one where I walked through liquid crystal, like it was like liquid lapis, and it was come up to my shins. And I remember walking there and feeling that sensation of liquid crystal. So there was something that was really nourishing and helped my soul at that time, or helped my human at that time, to realize there was something a lot more expansive going on here. And then around about, I don't know, it's again, around all this same time, I had a situation. I say situation because it really was a situation. I was in bed and I levitated off the bed really high. I say really high. It felt like, I suppose I was like a couple of foot off my bed. And I don't know how that could possibly happen, because it goes against gravity, doesn't it? Like, you think about gravity and you think about...
So your whole body came with you?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't, I wasn't asleep. I was awake. And I remember sort of feeling like as if I was frozen. Maybe I was asleep, but I thought I was awake. I don't know, but I really, honestly, to this day, I'm sure I was wide awake. And I sort of felt like I was frozen. Then I relaxed and I started to sort of like get my breath. And then I went back down. And what I felt it meant, or at least not that I was thinking it, but what came to me as like, was that this was proof, in a way, like human proof, that anything is possible. You've got to get all of what you think out of the way. Everybody that comes to you with their opinions and their ideas of how things should be, everybody that comes to you with this is how it is, and that is so, let go of all of that, because anything is possible, and you're creating it all, because you can do anything. So I was like, that period of time gave me a heck of a lot of strength, because when you navigate something like an illness, it really does break you open and find out who you are and what you're made of. And you let go of so much. I had to let go of my ego after leaving my restaurant business and that sort of corporate, type of living. All of that had to go. And then now it was like breaking out open and finding out what more, like get rid of all of those fears, let go of all of those anxieties. You just have to not even worry about, you have to make friends with like death, like, because there is no death. And so that don't even worry about that. It's just about being here now. It makes you concentrate really very much in a focus right now, not as in 10 minutes time, 2 days time, but right now. And you put your focus here and you concentrate everything here. And so it sort of really settled, because I used to have a lot of nerves, anxieties. I went through depression at times, all of those. I think so many of us have done all of that. So that was my main wake up call. And since then, it's been just more and more openings, more awareness, more releasing, more letting go. Gone. Gone. I've just been releasing more and more since. And that's me, my my journey up until now. I think the dogs, certainly Boo Boo, really helped a lot of the releasing, because when anything has any kind of behavior, which is what humans consider not very nice, then it's something deep rooted within. And you can't possibly have an animal that come into your presence, like as in a pet, if you don't have something within that you need to release too. So often when people have dogs, they go about trying to do external, like doing everything on the outside, instead of going within to transform the inside. But if you transform within yourself, because everything that we do within, when we release and when we come together and integrate everything within, and we embrace everything within, then everything that outside us changes. And that includes our animal friends and the people that come into our awareness. So actually, I did so much inner work, and my dog changed without me having to do a lot of crazy stuff with him. It was a matter of putting myself into that place of calm, neutral, love, respect, compassion, all of the graceful ways that we live and exist on this earth, and then assisting him to feel that through just by being demonstrative in the way I live. Because I suppose it's the same with children, when you demonstrate a way to be with children, then they follow the parent. Whereas if you tease a child, you must do this, and then you're completely doing something different, the child goes, well, I don't think so. I saw you doing that, mummy, and I'm going to, follow you. So my dogs have really assisted me along my path, really helped me to open my heart. And when we change within ourselves, then we don't have to do a lot of work with the dog. Just everything around us changes. And so this is the beauty. It's like you take a lot of the pressure off, because you can't change anyone. You can't change anything, and you shouldn't really want to. It just make your life easy. Go within, just work from it within there, and then everything changes outside. It's so peaceful. It's delicious, isn't it? It's
there's I've had so many goosebumps throughout everything that you are sharing there, because you share so much of your light in various ways, and we will be delving into that. But one of the ways I found you was through your beautiful YouTube videos, and you go for walks. And there is this presence with you. You hold this presence now because of the richness of your experiences. And it has brought you to a level of inner mastery within yourself, and you're able to emanate that out. And so I remember when I saw one of your videos, it just is very sobering. It's this presence, this awareness with you, and the way that you speak and the way that you share. But there's this compassion too, because you've been on this journey, these expansions, and they are gifts to bring you to where you are today, but also to unlock your gifts, your abilities to be able to share this with others and show them. And it's very, very powerful what you're speaking about, this inner world, and how once we begin to really understand this, how then we're able to transform the outside. So I just love this with you. I am going to take you back because there's so many things there that's of great interest. Just to delve a little deeper, because you're speaking about the lyre frequencies, and I wondered whether there's been more of an expansion with that for you since then, and if it's been a different feeling or expanse within that frequency. But also it was pinging in my awareness, because today, not only have you worked with sort of animal communication, particularly dogs, and how you bring that into the work that you do today with empowering people as well. But I was just finding how interesting to have this lyre. You saw this cat, this feline frequency, if you will, and how then that's connected to so much of what you do today, and how it's been of assistance in a way. Yes. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's, when I first met the Lyrans, I did receive more visitations afterwards, but in different ways. So I might hear something and it would bring that moment back where I was very much with the Lyrans, because even though I was looking at myself, I felt like I was with them. So I could see myself in the mirror that I was a Lyran, but I was with them. I could feel them all around me, although the others I couldn't necessarily see. And one morning I remember seeing what looked like a lightship outside my bedroom window. And again, I knew that was it was very much like a sense of community. We have you. We've got you. All is okay. Remember, it was sort of like a come back here, remember here, because there's something here that we can assist you with. It was almost like it was the beginning of something. So everything that I had done up until then was kind of like the groundwork, was the training, the earth training, and now was the real work was to begin. And they did come, and I did do some journeying to go deeper and to explore Lyra a bit. I've done that with a few different places. I say a few, well, I suppose quite a few, and I feel very much at home there. There's something very restful and comforting, nurturing, very much, like when you really feel at home, when that feeling, that warmth, that lovely radiation from the inside coming out, when you're in their presence. But I felt that they were probably the first. Actually, no, they weren't, because I felt I was more Syrian before that. Yes, I felt I was more Syrian before that. And I don't even know why. I don't know why, I just felt it. There was some sort of feeling. And then like I said, I realized, oh no, but we are all of these. So I have explored, and I suppose that visitation helped me to go deep into my explorations and to uncover or to remember aspects of my soul that I had suppressed and not wanted to see. Maybe even some of my imaginary friends were galactics. One of my imaginary friends I never gave any description of. And perhaps that was because that being was a light, or didn't have any kind of description you could tell a parent, because often it's the parents that relay, oh, do you remember your imaginary friend Charlotte and Smudge the cow? I had a cow, was one of my imaginary friends. And cows are very spiritual beings. They are very nurturing, very motherly, very giving, very, very sensitive, very gentle. And that gentleness is sometimes what us star seeds, or like some of us, we are very we find that the earth plane is quite heavy when we come in here. So we do have certain friends that come in with us and stay with us in those very early days until we get animals and other beings to assist us and help us. Sometimes we have to deaden our own light. We have to descend a bit to get steady with the earth, don't we? I say the earth, but get steady with all of those beings that surround us within our environment. And until we're at a time when we can release all of that we've suppressed and shine our light again. So I have, I feel that now I don't feel so much like I'm Lyran, or I'm Sirius, or I'm Andromedan, or, I feel I'm all of it. Yet from when I've done some explorations and journeying, I feel that maybe I was seeded in Andromeda, but I'm not 100% sure about that yet, because that might still be that that's what I saw then, because that's what I wanted to see then. It may be that that's also just a release that, let that go, because you're everything and there is no beginning and there is no end.
Share with us a little bit now about how you came to discover a way of communicating with the animals. I'm sure it was always there for you anyway, as you've already mentioned, but how this deepened for you, and your journey with Bobo as well, your dog.
When I was in Spain, I met this dog, and he'd been chained up onto a pig farm since he was a puppy, and he was really not in great shape. And I suppose that there was a part of me that wanted to rescue, wanted to save the day, And so I took him from his chain, and I took him to the local vet, and I got him well. I helped. The vet was amazing, and he helped me to get him well. And because this dog had never been walked, his back was very, very, I don't know what the word is, when the muscles go very thin,
Yeah.
And so I wanted to really help him to flourish and to grow. And when I came back to England, I went to different dog trainers. Some of them were really shocking, some of the methods, some amazing. And that really resonated. But I felt there was something that wasn't, that there was a missing bit. There was something missing. And I thought, well, if I could communicate with them. And when I found out about animal communication, I was like, gosh, yes, why did I not know about this? And then I was like, well, actually, I have always spoken to animals when I was a child. It was something natural. And then you forget about it, don't you? You sort of, as you grow up, you forget about so many of the things you used to do when you were a child, like talking to the cat and telling the cat that, you're a prince and you're the best prince in the world. You're my prince. And I love you.
Oh.
And so I enrolled on an animal communication course in Edinburgh, and I'm south of England. I'm right down the south, but my younger sister lives in Edinburgh, and at that time, she and her wife and their dog were in the centre of Edinburgh, and I drove all the way up with Boo Boo in my little car. Never done such a big drive with him, because I passed my driving lessons late. I was a late developer in quite a few ways, actually. But and we got up to Scotland and to Edinburgh. We stayed at their house, and I went to this incredible workshop and course with Joanne Hull, who is such a beautiful, beautiful soul, and a very generous teacher. Because some teachers, they don't always share completely, but she shared very, very, broadly and everything. So that was my first introduction in adult life with animal communication. And then I went on and did another course of hers and some courses from some other people. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And actually everything you ever want to communicate with, you do it through your heart. So in animal communication, you communicate through your heart. And that's the way to communicate. But then you're doing that with the Lyrans, you're doing that with the trees, you're doing it with the sun, the sky, the sea, with the masters, the angels, everything. And so it's a practice. It's a type of practice. Again, my higher self, oh, this is the next logical step. I mean, that's my human saying it like that. But the higher self probably was like, okay, we'll put you in touch with the animals and work on developing the communication. Because you work on developing the communication. I mean, I remember just hours and hours and hours talking to all these different animals. Every time I see an animal, oh, would you fancy having a little chat with me? Oh, hello, Robin, fancy a little chat. And, just talking to every animal I could, just to build up the practice so that I could get clearer at my listening. My listening, obviously, I say my listening like as if like my ear here, but it's all coming through here, but we hear it, all over. And so that's where I sort of like began. And I then went on to do canine flow, which it's a type of dog training, but it's working with the dog's energy. So you're not seeing the dog as, you're not doing all of the usual things like you must learn to sit and all of this. I mean, those things are very useful, but there's other dog trainers that can teach that sort of thing. This is about being with your dog. And I feel that that's something that's a lot of people might find very helpful, is to practice that, know how to just be with something, not just their dog, but even with other adults or anyone, how to just be. You don't have to always be doing, but just how to be. How can you be in someone else's presence? And so that they feel calm and don't feel like they have to fill spaces with words or noise, anything, just being. And I suppose presence, being with a dog, being present with a dog, being able to, observe their body in a way that's not like staring at them, but see, okay, like the subtle movements of the ears, the fur, feeling the heat, like when you put your hand down them, like, do they feel hot places? Do they feel cool in places? How are they feeling? Because they're all about feeling. Dogs are all about the heart. They don't go, I must think this through. They feel it and then they go from their heart space. And so that resonates a lot with me, something that lives from the heart. And of course, animals live from the heart more so than they ever could with the mind, because they don't think, they're not vindictive and go, I'm going to bite that person because I feel like biting them. That's never their intention. It's about, I'm scared, I bite. That's a threat, I bite.
How have you found, maybe in your own experience, but also through the work? Because what you're showing us is we are on this journey of evolution or remembering, this journey, this pathway of ascension. But the animals are too. And together, what you found that's just so powerful in having that awareness, and how you share this with others, to understand that there's something much deeper, because most pet owners will probably feel that there's something much deeper, but maybe not be able to put more of a meaning to it.
Yeah. And I also feel that with humans, and obviously we all know there's no right or wrong to any of this, but everybody has their own unique path, and there's no race and there's no competition, everybody in their own time. So you have dogs that are more older, more further, I mean, it's hard to sort of describe it, but they're further along their ascension journey than other dogs. Some dogs will be younger in that sense. They're still experiencing the life of whatever they're experiencing and existing from that place with that person and nurturing that person, and then nurturing each other and everything. Certain dogs, they may have come time and time again, and this is another I had some dreams with Atlantis. I have had quite a few dreams with Atlantis, and And this is another thing I find funny, is that so many times when people talk about Atlantis, they talk about it as if it's this terrible, there was a lot of terrible things happen there. And that to me was the ending. Like, that was the fall. That wasn't the beginning, but the very, very early beginning of Atlantis, that was pure. And all from what I remember in my dreams was that all children had dogs. Everybody had a guardian animal. And it might be my projection, but the animals were gold. They were gold, they were golden. And that they stayed until the child was old enough that they could then, they were mature enough that they could continue into their adolescent lives with the strength that the animal gives them. So we journey often through time and space, through different dimensions, like, bending in between, in and out, and that spiral of waves of living with certain beings, certain canine beings. And they are all on their own ascension path too. So they're all opening. And I mean, when my dog Boo Boo passed on, it was oh my gosh, it was so sad. I mean, I knew he didn't die. I knew his spirit lived on, but still the physical loss it's very hard. It was very hard for me. And I was talking to him, and I had a proper ceremony for him, and I had lilac flowers down him and crystals, and singing and chanting and toning and light language and and my boyfriend in Australia was doing some Tibetan prayers as well. So we had lots of very beautiful things. But I said to Boo, I said, what do you wish to say? Like, this is after he actually passed on, but his presence was still very much there, watching me, going, oh, you funny little human, what are you up to? And he was like, be joy, be joy. And so whenever I feel or think of him, I feel him in my heart. It's always be joy, be joy, be joy. That was his number one wisdom teaching, be joy. I'm writing a book at the moment about how dogs are great teachers, and how they teach certain aspects of ways of living in life that assist humans on their path, but assist each other really. So yes, be joy, and I love that. I really love that.
Oh, and that comes through in your beaming energy as well. So I love his wisdom. That's just stunning. And so then your work has, as we evolve, everything evolves. So your work has continually evolved, and you've brought in more of something that I find really fascinating and wonderful and much needed at this time, is this empowerment, self-empowerment. So share with us how your journey moved into empowerment, and how you're sort of melding all of these abilities and gifts that you have together to create these amazing offerings that you share with others now.
I feel that when we have had to experience intensity, and we've navigated our way through that intensity to come out to a different perspective and a different way of seeing how this is actually, because I like to alchemize things. So when something's intense, I look for the way in so that I can alchemize it and bring light to it and shine light through it, so that it's no longer a fear, it's no longer anything to be worried about. And it's something actually to embrace, because it helps us to open our heart and love more and be more of who we should be, our essence of the truth of who we really are. And when we go through that, and we navigate that, and we experience that, and then we exist in from that place that we've undergone those challenges. You may wish to call them challenges, I'm not sure, but the next natural step is to share that with anyone that is seeking, oh, I'm not sure how to go about this, or how do you know anything, or like, can you being able to share that to empower others so that they don't have to take as long to get through it. They can maybe just like stepping stones through a pond, like rather than having to trudge through all of the weed at the bottom, they can just skip across nicely and go, okay, away we go. And so I feel it's about sharing. And some people, they like to experience it for themselves. Some people don't always want assistance. They need to submerge themselves into the pain and whatever else it is to come out that way. So we all have our own ways that we like to learn, but there are some that are really very grateful and are happy to receive any guidance that someone else may have to offer to share with them because they've experienced it themselves. So I feel that was my next kind of like, I think I might have actually remember hearing you say in a video with you, and you were saying that you experience things and then you want to share them with other people. It's when you've experienced something, it's like the next, what do you do but share? Of course you want to share. How can you share? Well, I can share this. And for me, it was like so many clues. And this is, I think, what you said as well, was like you look on your life and there's all these clues of where you're to be moving to, like that awareness. Oh, this happened, and this happened, and this, and these, and da da da. And it's like all of those awarenesses. It's like it's all your background learning practice to grow your gifts, so that when that time arrives, you're ready to utilize those gifts and the tools that you've remembered along the way, and then to share them in a different light, from a different light. Because I could never be doing this years ago. I could never be. I wasn't who I am today. Years ago and that's another thing. It's like when people say people don't change. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Everything changes. It's always changing. Because there was a time when I used to eat meat, I used to drink, I used to party and, take a little bit of drugs and smoke and all of those things. And I think, gosh, I can't believe I'd wasted my time doing all of that. It's like, it just seems crazy that I did all of that. And it's like, it's just so different. But then that's why it's so easy for me not to judge as well, because how can I judge anyone? I did this, and we've all done it in different lifetimes. So when you know that, it takes the pressure off having to feel that you need to do any judge or criticism or anything like that. It's like acceptance, love, acceptance, love, acceptance.
That's so beautifully shared. Tell it, because I find it so uniquely you that you're bringing this connection with the animal kingdom into us finding our own empowerment. So how has that come to be? If you can share how you work, or if somebody came to you for this kind of connection and session, or for greater, deeper understanding, how do you work with others in this way?
So it's evolved. It has changed since I first started doing this. And again, I think that's a natural part of the path, is that you always want to be up leveling and also expanding, because you want it to be fun for you. Be joy, remember, be joy, remember, be joy, be joy. So I do classes, and just to give you a sort of like a little bit of background, but when I first started, I would be doing classes So this would be very much in like the canine flow kind of, we do a class, so the class would be meditation, canine hypnotherapy, very effective, very, very effective. Words are very useful, even though dogs don't understand words in the way that we understand them. When we say something and we say it with intention and we say it from our heart space and visualize it and feel it, and we send it out with that creation, we also change that feeling within that space. So we create that space, we create that peacefulness in the room. And I might have some nice music in the background. Often I play music that I listen to when I'm doing my Tai Chi or something like this. So often it would be kind of like that Tai Chi kind of music, which I love. I just love that sound. You probably like that sound too from being in Singapore. And then, so we would do things like some like spiral work. So a lot of the energy work that people do, a lot of people do things like Reiki, and there's so many different types of energy work out there. But with spiral work, it's easy to teach anybody and very easy to do. And you're doing like spirals, and the spirals are just to sort of help balance the body of the dog. The body, you can do it on yourself, and you can feel it. You can feel the shift and the change. So it's much more. I find it much more expansive than things like spiritual healing, which is the first kind of modality of energy work that I learned, because I learned that from my mother. So I just find it very, very, and you can really expand on this. You can really go to town and like try different things. So spiral work, and it's probably not a well-known energy modality, but we used to do this in canine flow, and I still do it. I think it's brilliant. So this would be like my normal kind of classes with meeting with people. I might sort of like get them to write down, tell me about your dog. What are the things? I certainly never did any things like recall or any of that stuff. That doesn't interest me. Nothing wrong with it. Not interesting for me. For me, if I was wanting to do anything like that, I would be practicing on helping people get their energy right. So we'd be standing together. I'd be like, okay, I want you to just focus on your heart, and just imagine that, like, your heart's this beautiful magnet as well, and that when you feel your dog, you just feel love and everything else, so that you're calling your dog back from your heart, and that your dog is responding from the heart, rather than calling and shouting and everything coming all up here, and then aggravating that top part of your body, and then all those words and that sound all just landing and just being just an overload for the dog, because that's kind of like overload of words and sound on a dog. So there'd be lots of different ways that I would work with somebody. Now, nowadays, I've sort of changed a lot, and depending on who is with me, obviously, there are less at the moment. There are less people, because a lot of people are still finding different ways of being with a dog, and some people are still very attached to wanting science and liking that science. I'm not a scientist. What I do is what works for me, and what I know works. But I don't talk about science. I don't talk about science in any of it. But I do know that what we eat alters how we feel, and what the dog eats alters how they feel. So there's a wheel, if you like, of different aspects which I feel assist a person to really flourish. And that wheel also helps an animal. So if you're really looking at your life and sort of like your health and nutrition, your purpose and your values, and you're looking at different aspects like creative expression, a really strong one, and I'll get back to that hopefully. If you're looking at your life like this, and you're looking at all of these areas, and you're nourishing yourself in all of those ways, then you're going to have a dog that is going to feel nourished. But you also need to apply yourself in certain ways. So if you're looking after your body and you're feeding yourself well and you're giving yourself enough sleep and you're sleeping in a place where there's darkness and that you don't have any Wi-Fi in the room or any of this, you want to be doing the same for your dog. So you kind of have to live by example. And creative expression, I want to get back to that because I feel this is something that's really quite fun, and this is very fun, especially for star seeds that just love to play. That, you know, a big part of when people go off and they aren't feeling great about themselves is because they've forgotten how to play. And dogs teach us how to play. And they, you know, they're like, oh, let's party, let's be joyful, let's, you know, run around and everything else. So what does a person need to do in order to remember that playing? So if I'm doing an online class, because I sometimes do online ones, I might get people to get their colors out, and, you know, I might pull cards, you know, like those lovely pretty oracle cards, and, you know, you get those pictures and everybody gets something different. You don't have to say anything about the card, just let the person feel whatever is right for them. Or get your dog. I mean, I get dogs to pull cards. They're very capable of choosing cards for themselves. And it's fun, you know, it's not about like being all serious. I'm doing a serious oracle reading here. It's about, let's make fun, let's make color, let's make joy, let's get crystals. My dog loves sleeping on a crystal. He loves sleeping on quartz. And I just feel that, you know, when we take our all of these different things that we enjoy, like our pretty crystals and our colors and pens, and, you know, and jump around as well. Very good to move the energy about before you begin, like, you know, clear yourself down, rub yourself off like in Tai Chi, you know, just get the energy moving, and then just brush off anything that you need to get rid of. And then we just ask your dog now, like, so it's a part of like animal communication, a part creative expression, coaching. A big part is coaching, so asking questions so the person is not being told, that they are bringing all of their own answers by themselves. Because, you know, if they can't get the answer, different question. Can't get the answer, different question. Can't get the answer, different question. Just you ask as many questions as you have to ask until they find the answer for themselves, because everybody has that wisdom within them. But there's something about, you know, holding that space and sharing as well, so that people also receive those, I suppose, like activations from being with somebody that's also, you know, experienced certain things that may help them on their journey.
That's so beautiful. And you've reminded me, I was in the park the other day with my son, and in front of us was this gentleman with this such a lovely dog. He was beautiful. And he turned around and he was looking at us with such kindness and love and joy, so much joy in his eyes. And we both could feel he was communicating, he was happy. And I caught myself saying, oh, he's absolutely gorgeous, but don't touch him because he's wet and he's dirty and he's been in the river. And instead of just, it was such a beautiful moment. I could really appreciate what he was communicating, you know, but that mind got in the way to stop the full experience of just petting him and just reciprocating the love in a way, because I didn't want to get my hands dirty, which is ridiculous. But it's this, we can feel it. It's so beautiful, isn't it? And I love the way that you're speaking about it, because there's this deeper respect, appreciation, allowing us to really make room for a new kind of relationship with our animals, and to understand that there's a greater depth there to explore with them, and that they are master teachers in many ways that are able to show us things that we may not have seen, you know, and that they, as you say, they understand the frequencies of the heart. Words are far lower frequencies in a way than so they see the conflict in a way in both those frequencies. They hear this, and there might be other words that say something differently, or vice versa. So it's just really beautiful what you're sharing, and the wisdom that you're sharing, and you're opening up a depth, a new world maybe for some who can now start to explore their relationships with their pets in a different way. You're speaking about creative expression, and I know how important this is for you. And you also create the most beautiful activational images, paintings of animals. And you share with us a little bit, because I will be sharing all of your details below. And on the website, people can find these really magical images. So, have you always painted? Have you always created?
I love painting. I just love, there's something so exciting about picking up colors and just playing with colors and, making things glow. You need to have a certain amount of the same color, and you put them all close to each other, and then you get this glow. Because if you just do one, it's flat. And if you put two, it's still flat. Three, it's starting to change. The same with like the dimensions. 3 is still quite flat. 4, we start to get somewhere, just like us. And then 5, we're onto something. And then from there, it's like opens you up to all of the realms. So everything, when you feel it, is reflected back. It's so fun. I've always painted. My grandmother was an artist. My mother was an artist. And I say I've always painted. Actually, no, I also went offline with my painting too. I love the way the Australians use pointillism. They use in the original peoples of Australia. And there's something about that just really speaks to me. Just that, I don't know, there's something about it. It's so meditative as you place the paint or the pen on the paper. There's something very meditative about working in that way. And then it just all becomes clear. And I love that. That's how, you just one after the other, just patience, 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 patience. Oh, wow, something here. And for me, I find that sometimes I pray when I'm painting. So when I say I pray, I don't pray in how some people pray. I mean, because there's a lot of confusion with prayer. It's like prayer and God. These are two words that a lot of people, oh, she's talking about the prayer word or the God word, that must mean that must mean. And it's like, well, actually, let's just forget about beliefs, because prayer to one person means something completely different. And God to everyone means different things. So you can never know what anybody means when they talk about God or prayer. You have to sort of like ask a bit more, ask a question, ask another question, ask another question. And for me, I feel that praying is about coming into that inner essence that we each are, and knowing that I am the divine, that we are all divine. We're all divine beings here. The plant is divine. Everything is divine. Everything is God. Everything is a God, piece of God, or not a piece, because we are not separated. We're all one love. And, well, we can create miracles then, because we are each God. So if an animal requires some assistance, and I feel that, yes, assistance is what that animal requires. Would you like some assistance? Shall I pray? Oh, yeah, that'd be very nice. Thanks very much. Well, look, high self of this dolphin could use some assistance, don't you think? Yes, I do think so. That's jolly nice, sort of thing. And you paint, and you see the dolphin thriving and flourishing and flying through the water and jumping, just really free. When you do this, it's not just the dolphin, it's dolphin consciousness. So you see the dolphin consciousness. you're seeing them through the water. And there's peace, and there's, and there's good health, and there's vibrancy, and that they are free, that they're safe, and that they up level their inner, skills, that they can talk to other dolphins and say, don't go to that part of the ocean because there's a jolly big net there, or you know what I mean. So it's like it's imparting something that says, I have your back, like the Lyrans to me that time. I have your back, I'm with you, I'm on your side. And in the same ways, like the elementals, and I went through a time when I was painting, and I sending paintings out to people here and there, like fairies and mermaids and all sorts of things. But I have a unicorn friend called Apache, and he collected Boo Boo. When Boo Boo passed over, there was a big, massive unicorn in the sky. I took photographs of it. It was like, oh, Apache, that's amazing. Like, it was so cool. And I knew that the unicorn came to collect Boo Boo, but also I feel that it was to help my human to adjust to something that was very painful for me at that time. It's like, well, how can we assist the human in this moment to adjust? So we will do what the human needs, which is to show a big unicorn in the clouds, which will, so there's lots of different interesting and magical and wonderful ways that the universe, multiverse works to assist us. And for me, painting, brings a lot of color into my existence. It's also a way that I do intentions. So like in the morning, I will get my sketchbook out and I will paint and draw something inside it. And I just, without any sort of thinking, no thinking involved. And I'll do some light language and some codes. And then it is my divine intention. And then I will put down, like this morning, it is my divine intention that today Lois and I will have a beautiful chat, and it will be glorious and lovely and beautiful. And, and I'll do that. And then I'll sign it off with my son. And then that's it. I leave it until the next day.
And my father was sneaking into the kitchen there in the background. So share with us your offerings so that people can know the areas that you delight in, and your offerings, what you offer, if people would be interested to come and have a look at the things that delight you more than anything.
So well, I do have a YouTube channel which is beginning to grow, which I've noticed recently. It's like, oh, it's beginning to grow. It's organic. It's an organic channel. So it's growing organically. And when that first happened, I was like, oh gosh, there's quite a few people that do the sharing in this kind of way. And I felt, no, this is part of what I have to do. This is my high self. I don't have sort of like an option in this. My high self, you're to go out there and you're to share, and you must do this. So I do that. So that's called Ascension Walkies on YouTube. Originally, I was going to speak more about like the dogs as well. So like Ascension Walkies being, like dogs and people. But how it is at the moment, it's more focused on the people, the humans. And I feel that, there'll probably be a little bit of both coming in at different times. But right now, that's how it is. So I have that channel. And then the services that I'm writing a book. I said I was writing a book. This is the second.
Yes.
The third book, actually. My first book was shelved, was really bad. The second book was just a very small ebook, which is available on Amazon. And that's probably, I haven't reread it since I wrote it, but it's about how women can, rise and, get beyond those old paradigms of living and be strong and sovereign, rise women, that's what it's called. And so this third one is about dogs, and dogs being your greatest teacher. So it's your dog is your greatest teacher. There's also a little bit of a sort of like a nod to the late Dr. Wayne Dyer there, because I loved him. I thought he was a really beautiful soul. And I learned a lot from him as I was growing up. I read a lot of his books. So even when I said I went offline, I was still reading things. And just when I say offline, probably not offline to in the extent that a lot of people would consider offline, but for me it was what I would consider offline. So he was a big part of my early days. And so yes, I've got that going on. And then I do classes, but my classes actually I haven't done any recent ones. I used to do them every single week, like meditation dogs. I'm considering to do something like that on the beach, because I feel that now is the time to do more in the local area rather than just online. And I find that there's so much more connection to be had being outside. I do one-to-ones, and I also do so the one-to-ones can either be in person or they can be online. Classes can be online or they can also be outside in nature. But at the moment, I'm considering doing something outside in nature, and just a peaceful place, just sitting down. And people, if they want a dog with them, bring the dog. If you don't have a dog, you don't have to have a dog. So it's not that it has to just be with people with dogs, but for all, because we can see where there are teachings to be had anywhere. Obviously, when you have a dog can relate back to you so much and mirror back to you so much what's going on with you internally. And I think more so than any other animal, because they're more with us, aren't they? They go out with us and they do things with us. Cats are much more independent, although cats can also show us a lot, but they tend to be like, I'm out of here, I'm getting out of the way of you right now. But dogs have a very strong ability to show people a lot of what's going on within them, which also means that they have a very strong ability to assist humans to ascend and to remember and to awaken and to expand in a very loving way. So those are my main, and I do portraits. I do animal portraits as well. Yeah.
Wow. So there's a wealth of things there for people to go and have a little nose to see all of your beautiful offerings. And before we close, I did want to ask you to share with us the meaning of your name and how you came to your name, ZsaZsa, because it's such a special name. It's beautiful. You shared.
Yes. So ZsaZsa, as far as I know, means wild, free-spirited. And when I was younger, I couldn't say my name. So when I was like asked, "Oh, what's your name?" It's like ZsaZsa. And I called myself ZsaZsa because my names are Russian. And so, it's not always the easiest things to pronounce. And so I sort of named myself ZsaZsa. And then I changed it by deed poll, because it just made it much easier to be that changed by deed poll, because often people go, "But that's not your real name, is it?" You get sometimes people go, "But that's not your real name, is it? That's not your real name. What's your real name?" And so I can quite confidently say to those types of people now, "Yes, that is my real name. That really is my real name. Yes. Oh, yes, that was my real name, always been my real name." And I feel also, because one of my Andromedan names, and this is again, like I said earlier, like I'm not sure if that was where I was seeded in Andromeda Galaxy, or whether that's just how my human perceives it at this moment, and that in time that will drop off and I'll realize, oh no, but there is no beginning and there is no end. There I was like la la, so it sounds very similar to ZsaZsa, but then there's also that like being creation. And that also to me is like, remember, create, 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 create. Create, 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 la, create. So, because sounds are, like the tones that we hear, the sounds, and universal sounds, multiversal sounds are very, we should be aware of those. When we're hearing that sort of a particular sound into our awareness on a consistent frequency, then that means, or that could mean, if you choose for it to mean that, that is a prompt from your higher self. This, pay attention, this, pay attention, remember this, remember this, remember this. And I feel that's the main point of my name, is the that sound.
I think it's so powerful too that you named yourself. I think there's something extremely powerful and empowering about that too, because our names come through to our parents often. I know with my children, my eldest, his name came 6 months before. So I knew this is the name, this is the frequency. And then with the second, it was a very different experience. There was sort of a quiet space, and he had no name for some time because there was a few weeks of panic, thinking, there was no name for this being yet. So, and when the name came, there was still this uncertainty. He had to grow into that name. And for me, I brought in another name when I was about 4 or 5 and started to use that in my name. So for you to call yourself ZsaZsa, I think is extremely powerful and wow, just very liberating and empowering. And it says everything energetically about your frequencies and who you are, So I love that. And thank you for all your shares today with us. It's been such a delight and joy. Thank you for your patience too with everything that's been happening in our world. And I just so look forward to seeing everything that you do and the thriving YouTube channel and everything. So thank you so much for being here, ZsaZsa. You are such a delight and a light on this world. And we are so appreciative of you and your work.
Thank you, Lois. I really appreciate everything. And I feel it right here, right now. Such a generous and beautiful way that you've offered me to share in this way. And I really hope that we connect again. It will be so fun. And yes, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Love you lots.
Oh, big love.